welcome to another Coffee with Kilroy. So grab your cup. Oh, I'm kind of almost done with my coffee. Grab a cup of coffee, Joe, Java, juice, whatever beverage you like, and join me as I page through B17, The Fight for Air Supremacy, a roll and write solitaire war game by James Kirkpatrick. It's a little bit early this morning. I had to drop off my oldest daughter to school. She's going to state music competition. So this might not be the last of the coffee I have today. Anyway, so B17, Fight for Air Supremacy. I kind of looked at this, and this to me really follows in the footsteps of B17, Queen of the Skies, the classic Avalon Hill game that kind of ushered in my opinion, kind of the what I call the charty solo or the charty war game, where basically you're get your team assembled. You're managing a crew of a B17 and going on bombing missions. And you're checking charts. You're checking charts, rolling, and making decisions based on, what happens off those charts. Some of the criticism of B17 was there's not a lot of decisions to make, and you're just kind of going from chart to chart. This isn't meant to be a airtight, tense-filled decision fest of a war game. This is more of a narrative, developing a story and a narrative as you're going on these bombing missions, and you're, becoming attached to this, crew on the B17, which, you don't want to get too attached because there are casualties that occur. But this was really early on. This game was, I don't know what version this is. This was, I don't see a copyright on this, but I got this in the 80s, and I don't know how many versions or how many printings there were, but this is my original copy from the 80s, and this really kind of, in my opinion, really spawned again the charty solo war game that we see today. I mean, a lot of companies do something like this, or have games in this genre. Compass and DVG and others have followed suit in this kind of format. Adding to it, modifying it, improving it, adding more decisions. They've done a lot of different things, but this one, in my opinion, is still the queen. I mean, long live the queen, right? This game, to me, really follows in the footsteps of that, in that this is a roll and write. I mean, they're just telling you right off the top, it's a roll and write solitaire war game. But, it's got charts. You're rolling off the charts, and you're making decisions. So it really kind of follows a lot in the same vein as Queen of the Sky. So let's look in here and see what we have here. You've got a little introduction here. What you'll need to play this book: a pencil, at least 8 6-sided dice, plus a D10, so a 10-sided die. Then you've got right off the bat, we're already getting some charts here. You've got your action dice. You're going to be rolling action dice and then determining what you rolled. It depends what positions get to activate and do actions. There's zones here. There's enemies. You're going to be facing 109s, 190s, and a 262. Look at that. Man, this is later in the war here. Enemy combat, fire actions here, depending on what angle the attack's coming from, it looks like. Attacking, weather. So as you can see here, it's not, the rules are not, dense. The print's kind of small, but it's laid out in relatively clear sections here. And you basically go, there's no paragraph numbers or anything, or even page numbers as I look now. There's not even page numbers, but it's just these, you go section by section. German production. So, you're going to be doing a series of bombing missions, and the goal is to, decrease production, I believe. And so that's how you're going to be getting victory points. Here's missions. So it looks like there's at least 10 missions. And then you get a kind of an example of play, or example of how to use the board. Here's your B17. These are the different sheets you're going to be using, and they're going to have morale and combat zone tracks on each of the sheets. Here's the example combat sheet, starting to fill it out. So they're showing you how to mark certain things on there. Here's your quick reference charts. So these are all the charts I think you really need to use during the game. And then here's an example of the sheet. And then when you get to this is the gameplay here. You're going to have your B17 and marking your crew. And then you're going to have kind of your primary track over here, which is your morale score and your combat zone. These tracks over here. So that's the game. That's the part where you're going to be rolling dice on these charts over here, and then marking these up. So, as I've said when I've covered a lot of these different solo war game books, you're going to need to figure out, do you want to copy these, or put plexiglass or trace paper, or even however you want to, or just maybe even put stuff on top of these to mark it. Maybe put lay this flat and put counters or some other kind of markers on here. But the rest of the book is really just other iterations of this same chart. So you do have multiple copies if you just want to mark in the book and play it, and then buy a new one, which I don't mark stuff up, but that's a story for another day. So that's really the rest of the book is the rest of these are just B17. So as you can see here, this is, let's go to the back here. B17 for Air Supremacy is a roll and write solitaire war game. The player will take control of a B-17 bomber of the 8th Air Force. The B-17 must reach its target, fight off German fighters, encounter flak, mechanical problems, and try to keep its crew alive. Can you take to the skies and achieve the ultimate goal of reducing German fighter production? So, there you have it. That is B-17 Fight for Air Supremacy. The reason why I'm kind of covering a lot of these in my Coffee with Kilroy segments, I gotta get more caffeine, is they're showing you the different angles, or the different approaches, or the different ways each of these different books are handling things. Mike Lambo has his series, which to me is closer to your traditional hex encounter, is really just kind of the taking a step onto the page, so to speak. Then you have Worthington, which a lot of most of their books are very nice production quality, but they're really kind of reiterations of some of their more static game systems. When I say static, meaning that you have a set position of what the battle, where the forces are in the battle, and you're reacting to an AI to cross off pieces. You're not really maneuvering pieces as much on that in that game. It's mainly doing combat and marking stuff off. Then you've got Noah Peterson, which is really more of a roll in right. This says this is roll in right. That one truly is more of a roll and write, and kind of rolling and then marking stuff on the board, but in a war game context or scenarios. And I'll have another one of his coming up shortly as well. And then you have this James Kirkpatrick, which to me is, it's not as involved as the Lambo or even the Worthington, but to me it really does, harken back to, the B-17 Queen of the Skies, where you're manning a crew, and you're looking at charts, and you're reacting to those, rolling and reacting to those charts. So this is basically a more streamlined and slimmed down version of Queen of the Skies in that regard. So, there you have it. I enjoy these games. Oh, and I guess I forgot the other one. I was Minden. I've looked at Minden as well. Those book games are really what I'm seeing from there. Those are more war games in a book, meaning that they're games that really look like they're better played if you kind of break out some of the components or copy some of the components or kind of deal with some of the stuff outside of the book as much as you do inside the book. I mean, you don't have to, at least in the one game I have, but I've looked at some of their other ones, and they have counter sheets and that you have to print out or cut out or however you make them yourself. So it's really more of a war game in a book, and that goes back to one of the first ones I covered in this series is the Sandhurst Book of Games. So anyway, I'll keep covering these as I come across them. I think this is an interesting aspect of the hobby and something that's gotten a lot more focused over the last few years. I wonder why. But that's what you have with this. It's interesting. I part of this is that I'm interested in this and I play these, but I also want you all to see what's out there. So you get an understanding of what, if some of these might suit your fancy more than others. Some of these might be, well, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Or some of these you might be like, yeah, I don't want to pay that much for that. I'd rather, find the time and play a board game, or I will, some of these I like, it doesn't give me enough decision. So, each to their own. That's why I kind of do this stuff. And speaking of why I do this stuff, this is, by my calculation, my 300th video. So, kind of amazing. I got this far. I just started coming up and next week, I believe, is like my 2-year anniversary on with this channel. So I kind of started this during COVID, and just as to try to figure out where I want to go and how I want to do this stuff, and just focus on the hobby, focus primarily on war games, but I've branched out into a few other things over time. And I do this because I enjoy talking about my war games, and it gives me something to focus on. But it really is meaningless if it wasn't for you all, commenting, liking, subscribing. Really love the comments, by the way. But just interacting and watching, the views. Even if you don't do any of that other stuff, just taking the time, because I know your time is precious, to watch a little bit and spend a little bit of time with me. I do appreciate that. So I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep developing. I'm by no means the same, production quality or skill level as some of the other content providers in this space, because they've been doing it for a while, and they're pretty doggone good. So and I my hat's off to them, and I usually thank a lot of them over some of my videos. So keep watching all them, because the hobby can only get better as it gets bigger. So anyway, thank you for spending some time with me today. Enjoy the rest of your cup of coffee. I don't know when this is going to post, but it's really, really early here. So by the time this goes up, maybe I might be either well into my workday or back to bed. Thanks. Thanks for watching.